Good morning and welcome to our annual members meeting. It's nice to have you with us and we're looking forward to sharing a lot of good news with you. The first piece of good news that I have is that we have hired an executive director. Her name is Lynda Davis, and I would like for her to introduce herself to you at this point. Lynda?
Hi, everybody. Thanks, Bonnie. So, yeah, I'm also thrilled to welcome you all to our 2022 annual meeting. My name's Lynda Davis, like Bonnie told you, and I'm the new Executive Director of the Florida Native Plant Society. I'd like to start out by thanking the board for placing their trust in me, and also for to thank Shelley Sharp, who is our interim Executive Director, has really made the transition smooth for me. So thanks to Shelley and the board. I'm so excited to be joining this organization that has such a rich history. You've already achieved so much, and despite the challenges of that you've faced recently, such as COVID, you've gained even more momentum over the last year, so that's fantastic. So as well as managing day-to-day operations, my role is to grow the organization and our membership so that we can increase the impact that we can have across the state. And so we need you, our members, to do that. So please do reach out to me. You know, I'm available to all of you. And I'm really looking forward mostly to getting out and visiting all our chapters. I want to meet you all. I want to listen to our members. I want to learn more about the needs of each of your communities and how FNPS can do more to help. So this is my first week in the role. It's been a very busy week, but I have been absolutely overwhelmed by the warm welcome that I've received from everybody. So thank you all for that. I'm looking forward to meeting you all. Yep, like I said, please reach out to me. And thanks to Bonnie for this opportunity to introduce myself. So with that, I'll pass back across to Bonnie and enjoy the rest of the meeting. Make sure you stick around throughout, particularly for the voting. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynda. And yes, the board is exceedingly pleased to have brought Lynda on board. And we know we'll spend many good, rich years with her, and we appreciate her service. Valerie, if you can show me the first slide. Thank you. Well, welcome to the annual meeting, and welcome to one of my favorite plants that grows up here in North Florida that Shirley Denton has photographed. That is Sarracenia flava, I believe. I know it's Sarracenia.
Minor.
And so
Minor.
Thank you. I knew you would know, Lily. And let's get into the meeting then. Valerie, if you will, let's go in. Let's advance the slide. The first order of business will be to vote on the 2021 minutes. Valerie will put them on the screen, and you will have 5 minutes to read them, and then I'll call for the vote on accepting the minutes of last year's meeting. Valerie?
Everyone should be able to see the beginning of the minutes, and I haven't started the timer yet, and I just need to change screens to give people the link to vote real quick. So you guys are going to see the back end of how things work. Okay, so there's the link. If you need that emailed to you, please email me, communications@fnps.org. And I have started, I'll put the timer. Okay, so there's our 5-minute timer. Scroll down a little. Thank you, everyone. We have 10 responses so far, 2 minutes and 30 seconds to go. These meeting minutes are also linked in the YouTube description, and they're on the FNPS.org news item, as well as in the FNPS members only group as a file, in case you would like to go back through them at a pace that is not working for you. Uh, 8 seconds.
So I will pronounce the minutes as having been accepted. Thank you very much. Moving right along, let me make sure I introduce, along with Lynda, our two other really fantastic staff people, Valerie Anderson, who's running the show and is Director of Communication and Program, and Lily Anderson-Messick, our Director of North Florida Programs and all things Torreya. So thank you guys for being here, and thanks for being on the staff. If you can advance the slide. And I'll go through this really, really quickly. Beyond the fantastic news of Lynda Davis coming on board with us, we have increased our membership to 5,850 plus members. We had a very successful 41st annual conference, and we have partnered with the Florida Wildflower Foundation on a new internship program. And we've received $12,000 in a new grant from the Brown Foundation for native plant conservation, rescue, and propagation. Next slide. And as you'll hear from Lily shortly, we are continuing our work on Torreya and Dicerandra. We were selected by the Center for Plant Conservation Seed Collection Program to collect seeds on 3 species you see listed here. You, our members, participated in the advocacy work leading to the veto of Senate Bill 2508. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Next slide. And now I'll turn it over to Valerie for a report on communications.
Hi everyone. So we have had great communications so far. I would say Lily has more or less taken over our social media, particularly as it comes to Instagram and the Facebook connection. We have had pretty solid growth, and let me just pull up. So I wanted to start with the annual conference. We had, again, an all-virtual annual conference this year, just like last year, and we had 421 registered attendees for 1,224 total watch hours, and most people said that they enjoyed the conference. For social media, we have, since the last annual meeting, we have 10,055 new followers and 1 new social media platform. So we're now active on TikTok. If you're on TikTok, please follow us. We are kind of funny. Facebook is, again, our largest platform, 37,000 followers. Instagram, and then below we have Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, our blog, LinkedIn, Flickr, and then TikTok in terms of our reach, our follower number on each platform. As you know, we have our Lunch and Learns, the most consistent programming. For this past year, we had 38 Lunch and Learns and 5 after hours since the last annual meeting. We've had 14,000 total viewers and 4,000 total watch hours for the Lunch and Learns, and 1,400 total viewers for the after hours with 433 watch hours. Thank you. There's some graphs for our conference. Sorry, I meant to go to the next screen. So here are some graphs for people's enjoyment of the annual conference. I do hope we can get back to some in-person programming soon. Back to you, Bonnie.
Programming and events. You'll hear briefly about that from Melanie Simon, the chair. We have updated our bylaws and we'll present them to you today for your acceptance, we hope. We do have the new internship program in collaboration with Florida Wildflower Foundation. It's our hope that we will find emerging college students with a desire to go into botany and as a profession, and that we can help mentor those folks and bring them into the fold. And we're really looking forward to partnering with our Wildflower Foundation friends. We created and have printed regional guides for newcomers to Florida. it's called a Good Citizens Guide, and it gives very detailed information for each region as to what kind of habitat is in the region and what kind of plants would be suitable for that habitat. And I'm very pleased to say that we have translated into Spanish our membership and MOLES brochures, and we are working on continuing to translate our other brochures as well. Thank you. Valerie? Melanie, you're on.
Hi, I'm the new chair of the Council of Chapters. So as most of you may or may not know, the Council of Chapters is comprised of an elected chapter representative from each of the 33 FNPS chapters, and it operates as a committee of the FNPS board. The purpose is to facilitate communication among the chapters and with the FNPS board. In 2021, we did some work supporting chapters with workshops and information sharing. We did spend the bulk of our time and energy developing the inserts for the new citizen guides and redoing the volunteer hours reporting system. You can go to the next slide. If you're interested after the presentation, after the meeting, you can go and read through all of these. So next slide. Keep going. The volunteer hours, I'm pleased to say that we are now reporting and showing all of the dedication and hard work of all of our members and everyone within the society. So far through June, we've reported 25,000 hours. And this is more than was reported in 2020 as a whole. Our goal is to really show how hard we're working by having over $1 million of volunteer hours reported in 2022. I have to thank all of the chapter representatives for helping with this effort and all of the chapter volunteer hour coordinators for making sure that hours are reported every month. And on to the next person.
Hi, I'm Lily. We had another successful year with the Terray Keepers project for the Florida Native Plant Society. So we are surveying privately owned lands within the range of Terray taxifolia, and we are collecting data, collecting genetic samples, collecting cuttings, which were grown ex situ at the Atlanta Botanical Garden Conservation Nursery. And we're also collecting canker samples of the fusarium that has infected Terray taxifolia and we send those samples to the University of Florida Forest Pathology Lab for them to do further research on this novel introduced pathogen. Next slide. And it was a very successful year so far. We've surveyed over 900 acres of properties. We've found over 160 new trees. And actually this year we found a lot of Taxus floridana, which is another very rare, it's not federally listed, but it is definitely an endangered species. It's a conifer that also occurs in the ravines. And we found a lot of those this season as well, which we also take location data on other rare and endangered plants that we find while we're on these surveys. Next slide. And so we also had some outreach and interactions with other institutions. We were highlighted. A volunteer reached out to me who has a podcast on Florida called Wait 5 Minutes, the Floridian podcast, and he volunteered with me for a few surveys, and then he did a whole a two-part series all about the FNPS Terraria Keepers project and what it was like working out in the field with me. So that was a nice, information, education, outreach. And then we've also been working with the U.S. Forest Pathology Lab on another novel pathogen that is occurring in the ravines and has infected both Terraria and Taxus, as well as other unrelated hardwood species. On your left here is Jason Smith with two of his associates who came out. He is he works at the U.S. Forest Pathology Lab, and his lab is the lab who actually identified Fusarium toriae, which infects the Terraria taxifolia. But he also reached out to me, letting me know about this other novel pathogen that is spreading. This in the center here, you see this white kind of mycelium growing on this tree branch. That's an oak branch. And this is a novel species that is closely related to wood rot fungi, but it has yet to be named. It has just shown up in Florida and is spreading. And so we are also taking genetic samples now of this species of fungi in order for UF to continue to do further research on that, because it could be devastating in its effects as well. And then we have also done a lot of invasive plant management and removal. You can see on the right there, I'm sitting there with a deceit. It looks small, but it's a very large bag of coral ardisia berries. And we have been working on invasive plant management on the property that has a very dense population of Terraria taxifolia on a Corps of Engineers property. So we're helping them manage their land because they don't have the manpower to do that. So we're doing a lot of different projects, and it's been a really great year so far.
Thank you, Lily. Is that the end of your report?
Yep, that's it.
Well, thanks, and thanks for all you do out there. It doesn't seem to matter what the weather is, and you're always there, and that's really fantastic.
Thank you.
Yes. Melanie, would you briefly describe some of the restoration projects that I know you have been working on, and other volunteers as well?
Well, what I've been mostly working on is we have a rescue site in Claremont that we have been diligently working for several years now. One of the endangered plants we have found is Caligula, but we've found lots of other great plants. I think at this point we have an inventory of about 1,500 pots, which most pots have more than one plant in them. And we are now embarking on putting those plants into various restoration areas. They have been put into Oakland Nature Preserve. Last week, we put over 500 plants in at Lake Louisa State Park. And next week, we'll be planting, again, over 500 plants at the Little Italy restoration area of the Lake Apopka North Shore project. So a lot of good work doing. Unfortunately, the site we've been working is development is going to start this summer. So we will be looking for a new site to start rescuing plants.
Thank you. And Valerie, if you'll advance the slides, there's a slide representing the work at Horseshoe Creek Scrub, one of the Diceranda Modesta, sorry about that. And then the next slide is volunteers at Lake Louisa State Park.
Yes, and those are pictures of some of the crew that we have had out there planting, a lot from Passion Flower, but also from the state park itself and from other groups. So we thank all those volunteers, and we're looking forward to a large crew next week at Little Italy.
Great, thanks. And I think there's one more slide in this set. Yes, the restoration and monitoring at Bill Frederick Park.
Okay, Bonnie asked me to say, this is Jackie, a few words on Bill Fredericks. This was a massive rescue in the last piece of scrub in commercially available scrub in Orange County. And multiple rare plants were taken and transplanted at Bill Fredericks as a recipient site. And we continue, FNPS continues to monitor those plants, and in particular the scrub lupine, which was found already existing on this site that nobody knew about. And we continue to monitor that. And this rescue and transplant thanks go out to multiple organizations such as Sierra, Audubon, and multiple other and multiple chapters. So thank you for that. Over to you, Bonnie.
Thanks, and thank you, Janky, for all of your hard work on these plant rescues as well. Next, we'll pivot to Gene and Sue Mullins and hear a policy committee report. Brief.
All right, thank you. Can I go ahead and share my screen now, Valerie? All right, then. I would like to note that Sue Mullins, the Native Plant Society's lobbyist, is here with me to help us present our summary of the good, the bad, and the exceeding ugly. That's our interpretation of how this 2022 legislative session went. I would point out that contrary to that little image on the right, there really wasn't any comedy. There wasn't really any reaching across the aisle in this session, just as we've seen in the past several. I'll highlight a few bills here that I put in the good category. What I really want to focus on here is that first one, specialty license plates. This bill basically gave us a reprieve. 2 more years in order to sell the 3,000 vouchers we'll need for the Florida Native Plant Society license plate to go into production. We and a lot of the other organizations that were granted these license plates a couple of years ago, we found that during the pandemic, we really hit a wall. And so this bill gave us all 2 additional years. This stalled right until the very end of the session, and we can actually point to one of our chapters, the Hernando County chapter, that was instrumental in making this happen. The chair of the committee in the House of Representatives, that was the area where this was failing to move, he is the representative for Hernando County, and so our Hernando County members, speaking as constituents, contacted his office and convinced him that he did have a good reason to let this bill move along. And once he did, it quickly passed. So we're thankful to the Hernando County chapter for helping make that good bill pass. These other bills on this page, we put them in the good category, but I would mention that seagrass mitigation bill. it failed to pass. That's what was good about it. It was a horrible bill that would have established mitigation banks for seagrasses, a completely unproven concept. And then that third one was a horrible bill that did pass, but it was vetoed. So there's a common theme here. You know, a good bill or two here or there that did pass. The real successes seem to be stopping bad bills and seeing some really horrible ones end up being vetoed by the governor. Three more that we put in the good category. You might remember a couple of years ago, there was a bill passed that preempted the local government ordinances that protected trees. So this bill took out a lot of the worst provisions of that bad bill. So that fits in the good category. We also made some baby steps on addressing the problem of septic tanks and the contributions that they make to our groundwater pollution. We do have some things to celebrate here. These are some of the budget numbers. You might have read that this was, I think it was $120 billion, the largest budget by quite a bit that the state has ever passed. And we can celebrate looking here. We see $100 million for Florida Forever and $300 million for the Rural and Family Lands Protection Program. So that's $400 million towards land conservation. It would be important to point out that those dollars actually came to the state courtesy of the federal government through the pandemic relief money. That's not something you're going to hear the legislature really point to, but it's $400 million for land conservation. The bottom half of this, you'll see lots of big numbers, and those are items that go towards coastal resiliency. That's another issue that we're very supportive of, so we're really glad to see the state putting so much support behind that effort. We're just going to have to keep a watch and make sure that those dollars are actually properly spent. And then right there at the very bottom, $217,000 to support endangered plant research. And I'd like Sue to have a chance to share some insights on that funding.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Gene. Thanks all for gathering on a Saturday. Just very quickly, this endangered plant research, it really is the basis of our grant money that we're able to really do work on the ground all over the state in local communities. So this funding item wasn't included in the governor's budget. And it hasn't been since the first year of the Rick Scott administration. It was quickly dropped out after that. And so every year you have to work through the agency. In this case, it's Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, and get this as inserted as a line item in their budget. And then depending on who's swapping what, it drops out, it gets added in on one side. And that's indeed the case this year. We got it added in on the House, and then finally late in session, got it added in the Senate. And so then it became part of the entire Appropriations Act or the budget, and was able to make it to the end. In fact, make it through the weekend that they didn't get their work done and had to extend to a special session to pass the budget. And this passed as part of it. So, it's a bit of a bouncing ball to follow, but it's incredibly central to our work, and also a great kind of visibility line item for us as an organization doing on the ground work of conservation restoration.
Thanks, Sue. And I'm just going to underscore the fact that every single year this money disappears and Sue is there to get it put back into the budget. So it's something that I think we take for granted, but I really wanted to point out that this is something that the Florida Native Plant Society is instrumental in every single year. So here we have some of the not so good bills that passed. Again, that first one listed, recommendations of the Blue-Green Algae Task Force. When the governor was first elected, we all celebrated the fact that one of the first things he did was create this task force. to help us identify some of the solutions to deal with the water quality crisis we're facing in this state. That task force is convened now for several years. They have a slate of recommendations, and they have gone absolutely nowhere. So while we celebrated creation of the task force, their work so far has really come to naught. And then I would jump down to that last bill, Golf Course Best Management Practices Certification. This isn't a big thing, but it allows golf courses, their greenskeepers, to go through a training program, and once they pass that, they're exempt from compliance with any of the local government fertilizer ordinances. So really what we have here is a couple examples of the fact that we're in the middle of a water quality crisis, and the state is, if anything, stepping backwards and making it even harder to address these problems.
Were you going to gloss over 1078, Gene?
Pardon me?
You're going to gloss over 1078?
We're going to gloss over a lot of things. We're moving at 100 miles an hour here. And we want to focus on this one, the exceedingly ugly Senate Bill 2508. There's a whole laundry list of reasons why this was a horrible bill. The ones that concerned us most were relevant to land conservation. And it was so bad that virtually every conservation organization in the state was opposed to it from the very beginning of the session. And when it did pass, virtually all of us submitted letters like this to the governor asking him to veto that bill. In addition to submitting this letter, we also issued 2 action alerts to you, our members, and as again did many of the other conservation organizations. And the upside there is, this was just a couple weeks ago on June 8th, the governor vetoed this most horrible of the horrible bills. So the exceedingly ugly, that was appropriate, but the governor found a way to turn our frown upside down with that veto. And again, I'd like Sue to speak up and give us some of the maybe inside baseball view on how this came to pass, or be vetoed rather.
Yes. So again, this bill came out, and it was immediately attacked by the governor when it was issued out of the Senate, mainly because of his affiliation with the Everglades Foundation and their dissatisfaction with the Everglades and South Florida Water Management District implications of this bill. So the Senate went to work and kind of mollified the provisions that would have mainly affected the Everglades. But they did leave in the provisions that we found so objectionable, which was to basically give $300 million to the Department of Agriculture to spend without any kind of land conservation planning, the sorts of scientific basis that we rely on, frankly, for land conservation purchases and land management. So it made it through the process. Obviously, it came out, and the governor was intent to sign it because he, again, the Everglades Foundation kind of signed off on it. And so it was really up to some folks who remained in Tallahassee, and there's very few of the lobbyists that actually live up here, but I was one of them. And so in the days when I knew that it was imminent for him to either sign a veto or let it become law, because he only has a certain amount of days once he's presented with a passed bill, I basically started camping out in the governor's office and making sure that I talked to every staff that I possibly could. And my argument was this: who really needs this bill? And, because you couldn't argue about the policy at a certain point because it had passed the legislature, and it's kind of, the policy parts is, they're not really, they don't care so much about some of the actual policy implications, especially when there's a lot of dollars attached to it. It's mainly about the money and who would get it and blah, blah, blah. And so finally, on the day before he vetoed it, I was told that he was going to sign it. And that's literally whenever I just spent the rest of my hours in that office and just, having them go line by line exactly who needs that bill. And at the end of the day, nobody needed the bill. I'm sure that other folks besides us were present in that and really, you know, made our voice heard. But he did end up vetoing it, and so that was lovely and rather unexpected. So, let me just mention real quick, Gene, that another bill that we worked against this year was Senate Bill 620, and that was the bill that would for any kind of a tree ordinance or water ordinance or any kind of ordinance that might cost a business, a private business owner money to comply with. That bill, of course, we couldn't stand it because, you know, it could have stopped a lot of progress for us in terms of tree protection and, you know, lots of things. And the governor did veto that yesterday also, and that's also good news. And I just want to mention that's a victory. And he feels like in his veto letter, he called some local government actions draconian, talking mainly about the COVID protections that local governments implemented. But and he said that a better attempt would be made to come back at this and just try to, you know, make statewide laws to preempt all local government laws. So good news, bad news there, but at least we live to fight another day.
Indeed. Thanks a lot, Sue. So that was the summary of the legislative session. Some good bills, bad bills that were stopped, bad bills that still managed to pass but were vetoed. That encapsulates the legislative session right there. A couple other priorities that we've been working on. One is we've really been working hard on Ocklawaha River restoration. We're a member of the coalition that has been fighting for that. So we've been working pretty effectively with a lot of other conservation organizations. A long list of reasons why it's a good idea to do this restoration. Maybe most relevant to us, first on that list, you see 7,500 acres of floodplain forest that would be restored, in addition to 20 drowned springs that would be able to regenerate grass beds and viable spring runs. As part of our role in that, I drafted a couple columns that ended up being published in the Tampa Bay Times. I did have co-authors on those, representatives from that Free the Ocklawaha coalition that were part of Defenders of Wildlife and the Florida Wildlife Federation. You hear wildlife in both of those. We all know that people are a lot more sympathetic to the plight of critters. And so you'll see we got a beautiful spread, photos and maps, and of course animals, in this case manatees. That was the centerpiece of the article, and how restoration would benefit manatees. There was a second one that we published, and in this one we were really highlighting how restoration of that system by draining the Rodman Reservoir would enhance connectivity across the Florida Wildlife Corridor. That's a really big topic now that's getting a lot of attention. And so we highlighted the benefits to the Florida Wildlife Corridor. Again, a beautiful spread, lots of photos and maps. I'll point out this time we actually have 2 plant photos in there. The plants were actually recognized as part of the Florida Wildlife Corridor issue. And I'd also like to acknowledge that those photographs, the clasping Waria photo came from Valerie Anderson, and there's a Florida Bonamia photo on the second page, came to us courtesy of Shirley Denton. Thank you very much. Oh, I do want to bring Sue into this again. It mentions here that she facilitated an analysis by Florida Tax Watch, and that was really a big boost to this effort when a conservative organization like that lends its support to the conservation cause. Would you like to say a few words on that, Stu?
No, I think that covers it actually, but thank you.
All right, well, she helped make that happen. So thanks again, Sue. And last but not least, you might recall MCORs, the multi-use corridors of regional economic significance. sometimes known as the No Roads to Ruin. That passed several years ago, and we fought long and hard, and that culminated in a bill that killed 2 of the 3 toll roads that were proposed by that legislation. But this one survived, the Northern Turnpike extension. So we're still involved in that fight. We've really had some success. Levy County, the towns of Dunellen, English, Yankeetown, and Inverness have all passed no-build resolutions that they've submitted to the Florida Department of Transportation. This Monday, 2 days from now, I'll be attending a meeting of the Citrus County Board of County Commissioners, and they are going to be reviewing 2 versions of a draft resolution to recommend a no-build alternative. And we're confident at least one of those is going to pass, so we'll be able to add Citrus County to that list. And we've come at this, being the Native Plant Society, we've really focused on how construction of these highways would really impinge on the ability to use prescribed fire. So this is one of the maps that we've submitted to those local governments. All those black dots are places where the Florida Forest Service issued burn authorizations, over 6,000 of them over a 10-year period. And you see a lot of them on those colored bands that identify where they're proposing to build this road. So we're going to continue fighting that. And this week, we're going to be conducting a meeting of the policy committee to discuss where we go from here, what our priorities should be for the remainder of the year. We don't have the ability to really take questions and answers, but I've provided an email address that you can use to contact me if you have any questions about what we've presented here today. If you have any suggestions about things that might not be on our radar that you think we should be considering as priorities for the Policy and Legislation Committee, please, by all means, share that information with me. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Gene. Moving right along, Valerie, can you bring us up to date? Show the next slide.
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
sorry. Thank you,
well,
John.
I'm happy to announce that the Conservation Committee received we received 2 grant proposals, and we made this award to Ray Crandall and Rochelle Deek for their Dicerandra studies in the Marjorie Rollins, the Greenway. Not only is it an enumeration of Dicerandra and seeing how many and where they are, it also has an adjunct policy or study objective of documenting what pollinators visit these flowers. So it's really exciting work, and we are glad to fund this project. We are hoping for more applications next year, so we hope the word gets spread a little bit farther. We would like to have more choices and fund more good work. Also, if there are people out there that are interested in joining with the conservation on the Conservation Committee, we hope to expand our reach of conservation work in the next year, and we would welcome your assistance. What the other thing that the Conservation Committee does is award the Dan Austin Ethnobotany Award. Unfortunately, there were no candidates for the award, at least that it applied in time. There are some interested for next year, but we would like to have more again. So that's that covers our Conservation Committee work.
Thank you, John. And I would echo that request to have applications for the Ethnobotany Award. That's a fascinating subject, and I'm hoping we'll see some more interest in it and more grants headed that way. Valerie, could you move to the next slide, please? Oh, this is Susan. I've asked Susan Carr, our science person is sitting in an airport somewhere. That might sound familiar to a lot of you, and has been unable to get back to Florida. And I've asked Susan to make this presentation on Paul Schmalzer's behalf. Susan?
Yes, thank you, Bonnie. Yes, I'm Susan Carr, current board treasurer, and yeah, I feel hearts out to Paul and his family in this difficult time. So bear with me because I'm not on the science committee. So, but I do know that annually FNPS makes science awards in two varieties. We have a science award that is made to several candidates, and this year, I guess it was this year, we made about $7,500 worth of awards as science grants. And then there's a second, there's the Cornelia McNamara grant that I'll talk about next. So the science grant awards, which we've been doing for years and years, it is funded, it was supported by these wonderful people here that are listed on the screen. Thank you very much for your donations to support this grant program. I just also want to point out that we have a research endowment that also supports this grant program. So thank you all the donors here. And next slide. Okay, so here's a list of the awardees. Like I mentioned, it totals about $7,500. There were 4 awardees this year, and you can read them there. I don't know a whole lot about I didn't read these proposals or anything, but I see that 2 are from my alma mater, University of Florida. Go Gators, yay. Go Gators. Chomp chomp. Okay, so, this looks like wonderful work. And I'll also say that FNPS, one of the few, or maybe the only grant sponsor for these sorts of very specific, science endeavors about native plants, but it's also really crucial. I mean, I can see the applications for the wiregrass, study right there, right, in restoration, or the seagrass study. This all feeds into really important restoration and applications in our state. So next slide. Okay, this is actually a new grant program, relatively new grant program that is brought to us by Chris Calder, who very generously, he came to us, and I was still president then, so, and Bonnie and I talked to him when he first showed up, I think in 2020, and he said, look, I want to fund work in something that's understudied or underknown. So he generously, gave us the funding to support a 4-year grant program to support unknown, more research or more even citizen science kind of work around native plant communities. So we're, I think, in the 2nd year of this program. It is named the Cornelia McNamara Grant Program in honor of Cornelia McNamara, who passed away a couple years ago, longtime member. So there were 2 applications for this year, and here's the first one. Let me see if I can read this off, from Northwest Florida State College. And this looks very interesting. I haven't read it, but mining data to expand field-based documentation of carnivorous plant communities. So that, as you probably know, the Florida Panhandle is ground zero for pitcher plant bogs and all kinds of cool stuff like that. So that sounds like a really cool project, and that will have all kinds of implications for informing land management and land conservation, I'm sure. Next. Okay, this is Gage. I know Gage from University of Florida, and he is working on seed mixture strategies for ground cover restoration, which is a big topic that is near and dear to my heart. And also Gage presented, this is ongoing work that he's working on here at UF, and he made a presentation about this at the conference last month. So, he's doing great stuff with restoration science. So I think that's it. And thank you.
Can you
hear me?
Yes.
Good afternoon.
Never mind. Go ahead.
Good afternoon and welcome to the annual Florida Native Plant Society meeting. My name is Mac Camacho. I'm one of the board of directors at large, and it's my honor to present today's landscaping award. The Florida Native Plant Society gives awards for high quality native plant landscapes in various categories. These categories are residential, commercial, institutional, transportation, restoration, mitigation, and wildflower butterfly garden, landscape primarily with native plants. It's my honor to present the City of Sanibel with this award of excellence based on the utilization of over 50 different plant species, native plant species, as part of their demonstration garden. And now I present you with Rachel Rainbolt of the City of Sanibel.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. At this point, thank you so much for hosting myself as well as one of our Vegetation Committee members, Claudia Hoffman. We are very pleased and honored to have been selected for this Award of Excellence. It means a lot for our community. Speaking of community, if you aren't as familiar with who we are Sanibel Island, which is located in Southwest Florida in Lee County. We incorporated as the city in 1974 to embrace the ecological vision that places the island's natural environment at the top of our hierarchy of values. And to help us facilitate these values in 1975, we created our Vegetation Committee, like Claudia, who are comprised of island residents to help advise our city council about sound ecological management of the natural resources that we have available to us on the island. And toward that end, Sanibel developed the comprehensive land use plan, what we call the Sanibel Plan, in 1976 to place protections on all native plants. So we are very pleased that we were selected for this award, and we hope we will do you guys proud.
I'm sure we will. Claudia, would you like to say something?
Well, I would just like to both thank you for this award for Sanibel on behalf of Sanibel, but also thank you for the work that you do in the field, working with communities, and what you do in Tallahassee and at the federal level on policy. So thank you.
We have a great community, and we're certainly glad you're a part of it. Thank you so much. Valerie, we'll move on. Oh, your award's in the mail.
Oh, good to know.
So sorry.
That's okay. Thank you for having us. We're going to log off, but we hope you have a nice rest of your afternoon.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And now we move, and thank you, Mac. I'm sorry I interrupted you. Now we'll move on to the Palmetto Awards. These are given, as you see, the Green Palmetto nominated by fellow FNPS members, the Silver Palmetto nominated by the President, and the Outstanding Chapter of the Year voted on by the Board of Directors. Mark Catelli, our President-elect for the next few minutes, I'd like you to present the Green Palmetto Awards, please. You can turn on your mic.
Sorry guys, Mark is, we can't hear Mark just yet. We're working on it.
How about now?
Oh, great.
Okay. Sorry about that, guys. So our Green Palmetto Awards are nominated by and supported by chapters. This year, our Green Palmetto Awards for service go to Steve Dickman from Suncoast chapter. Congratulations, Steve. Tammy Lafferty from Tarflower chapter and Anna Pepper from Tarflower chapter. I believe they're both instrumental in Backyard Biodiversity Day. Mabel Tina Patterson from Suncoast chapter, and Steve Woodmansee, a past president from Dade chapter. Congratulations, and thank you so much for nominating these wonderful members of ours for the Green Palmetto Awards in service.
Thanks, Mark. Next slide, please. The two outstanding chapters of the year as nominated and then voted on by the board are the Hernando chapter and the Pinellas chapter. Next slide. The Hernando, as you heard from Gene, the Hernando chapter truly was the only entity that could dislodge one of the House of Representatives who was standing in the way of passing the bill for the extension of our license plate. And when called to action, they started calling and writing letters and making phone calls. And I do not believe that we would have gotten that extension had it not been for the really, really dedicated work of the Hernando chapter. And so I'm delighted to be able to name them as one of the two outstanding chapters of the year. And the other chapter is the Pinellas chapter. You may or may not have heard the city of Dunedin was presented us and Audubon with a real conundrum. A piece of very pristine property was about to be sold for development, and the city wanted to raise over $4.5 million, but wanted to raise at least 4.5 in public funds towards the purchase of the 44-acre site. And Pinellas chapter came to the rescue, went out almost hand to hand and door to door and raised money. They had a marvelous event for calling in donations, which was held in the rain. It was great to see Valerie have to work underneath great big awnings and umbrellas while the rain poured down on her. But the money was raised, the property has been saved, and they are now doing a floristic inventory with a grant from us for that property. So I thank Pinellas chapter, and I'm delighted to see what they were able to do, and they're really a good example for other chapters to follow. Next slide. Those are the Green Palmetto Awards. And then I get the honor of sharing the Silver Palmetto Awards. Each one of these people is unique, and they've brought a unique level of service to their chapter as well as the society as a whole. Janet Grabowski is the chair of the Hernando chapter, and she led the charge, and she gave the chapter the leadership it needed to get the work done with respect to our license plate. John Benton is with the Lake Beautyberry chapter and came on the board as conservation chair and immediately got sidetracked into working on our bylaws, which was an almost thankless position. And he labored long and hard, and for the first time in 3 years, we actually have bylaw changes to be brought to you, our members, for approval. So I really appreciate all of the leadership that John has shown, not only in that, but in our to our board as well. Jenny Welch with Sparkleberry chapter. Jenny has run the silent auction at our conferences for at least 6 years, whether they've been in person or online. And she's labored way behind the scenes, but she's gotten the things that need to be bid on, and then made sure that everybody gets their particular pieces after the conference is over. And so that's her silver palmetto. Pete Dunkelberg is with the Farflower chapter. He has been the leader of the I'm sorry, my mind is absolutely blank. Field trips. For many, many, many years, he has always been there. He's gone out, done the hard work of identifying the plants, finding the plants, figuring out how the field trip is going to go, and really mentoring a number of new members as they came into the chapter and new members as they come into FNPS. And Michelle, Nicole, and Rebecca are the three musketeers who put the project together to save Gladys Douglas and saw it through to fruition. So these are the Silver Palmetto awardees for this year. Next slide. John. You're muted.
Yes, now I'm not muted. As Bonnie has mentioned, these proposed changes have been a while in the making. They have, the old bylaws were reviewed by an attorney to make sure they're consistent with Florida law. And we looked at revising these bylaws with an eye to making sure that FNPS is a member-driven organization and it is as transparent and flexible as it can be. So we reduced the size of the board slightly and changed its constituency to make it all elected. We changed the meeting requirements to allow for a more flexible meeting, both in person and electronically. And the same with voting. Voting on a statewide basis, voting systems are changing, and so we wanted to not prescribe that voting had to be done in person at an annual meeting and make it as accessible as possible. So, and there was a lot in the old bylaws. There were many details that didn't need to be there. They were more process oriented. So those were shifted to the FNPS handbook, and we will be revising that in the next year to make sure it is consistent and efficient. The board of directors did review and recommend that the membership approve the proposed changes. So with that said, I would make a motion that the membership of FNPS adopt these revised bylaws.
Is there a second to John's motion?
I'll second it.
That was
Susan Carr.
Susan Carr seconds. Is there discussion about the proposed changes?
May I ask a question? How does a member who's not on this Zoom actually initiate questions and comments?
So they can email me, they can text me, and they can, if they have access to, if they're logged into YouTube, they can do that in the chat.
So for those of you members who are joining us today, Valerie, why don't you go through those options again, please?
So I'm putting my email again in the chat. Okay, so I have my email open for discussion, and my phone number is here. If you prefer to text me.
Could I mention that per our current bylaws, these revisions were posted, right? I mean, Shirley knows better than I do about, but they were posted to the membership, so, which is a requirement of our bylaws currently.
They were posted on the website and they were emailed to all members with email twice.
Would you guys like me to show the bylaws on the screen for everyone now? Or the major changes? What would you like me to do?
Well, I guess I'd like to see if there are any questions from the membership. I guess it's like, how do you know the tree is falling?
Give it a minute.
Yeah, we should give it some time.
Yeah.
So we do have a question. Kenneth Quo asks, is there a voting link yet for the bylaws? So I have not posted it yet, but I could post it if you'd like me to.
Let's give the opportunity for questions in the chat or all the other means another couple of minutes, and then I think we should post the vote, please.
Somebody could sing or something.
Soft shoe, yes.
Lynda, tell us about your trip abroad.
Yeah.
Oh, how was the Queen's Jubilee?
Oh, yeah. It was, you know, you give everybody a day off in England and suddenly everybody's partying. So, no, it was really amazing. It was lovely to be home for a while and see my family.
Yeah.
And yeah, a special time to be there. So it was, yeah, it was really fun.
Okay, that's great. We do have a few questions. We have a question from Mabel Patterson. She asks, can a term limited board member come back after leaving for 2 years?
Yes. The answer is yes. There's a 3-term limit, so that's 6 years as a board member, and then one can succeed to other offices in FNPS. So it's just the board membership that is limited to 3 2-year terms.
And that is a lifetime limit?
Correct.
And is that across all board positions or just the one that they held?
It is just the elected, it used to be member at large, board member at large. The other board members are the officers. So it's the board as a whole is the president, vice president, it's 2 vice presidents, secretary, and other prescribed offices. For a total of 19. I think there's a minimum of 6 and a maximum of 19.
Is it your pleasure to wait for another question?
I just want to ask Tim, Jeffrey, and Mabel, does that answer all of your questions? If you could please say in the chat that that answered your questions.
Thanks. Great. So both of them have responded?
Yes, Jeff just responded as well.
Okay, great. Then I would like to call the question on the bylaws and open the voting to the membership as well as the board.
Okay, so I just posted that link in the chat for everyone. I will go, I'm here turning on the timer after I email the people who need to be emailed, who asked me previously.
Okay, and while you're doing that, Valerie, Shirley or Susan, would one of you like to explain the voting on the list of directors?
Well, we're not there yet.
We're not there yet.
We really need to get through the bylaws.
Depends on whether these bylaws pass or not.
Okay.
Different set of rules. So,
yeah, I don't see how the board can vote.
It's coming up now, I think.
I'm sorry. Well, I got one of our other board members asking me, and I don't see it either.
Okay, I just dropped.
You post that link where they can get at it more easily?
I just put it in the chat.
It's there now.
Thank you.
So it looks like, so we've got 4.5 minutes. So if you voted, you can sort of go on break. If you haven't, you got 4.5 minutes.
We have 41 responses so far.
Right.
We do have a question if we would like to address it.
The question is?
What is the reasoning for limits?
What is the reasoning for?
Limits.
Limits. John?
The reasoning is to promote diversity in the board composition and to encourage new faces and new ideas into the board structure. There is a provision for a committee of people that have served on the board that may be limited out to serve as an advisory committee to the board of directors, and then that has no term limit at all. But the idea was that we want to have a promote new blood and new ideas to the board.
Can I add something? I just wanted, under the current bylaws, we do have term limits. So this is not a novel concept. So we had term limits for some of the board and not term limits for others on the board.
Correct.
This is also novel in another way. Before, many of those on the board were standing committees chairs. They were appointed and not elected. So this shifts them from being appointed with no term limits, except the president could always replace them. Each time we had an incoming president, they could replace them with his own choices. But in the new bylaws, they are elected. They're just directors, like any other director.
Correct.
And if anyone is having trouble or needs the link emailed to them or texted to them, I can do that as well. Just please text me or email me. I can get that to you. And if there's a problem and we need to do a quick extension, I'm amenable to that. I'll make sure everybody gets a chance to vote. Tim Keating says, here is the language for board member term limits. Directors shall be limited to three consecutive 2-year terms. I think based on the answer, this is still confusing.
John, do you want to respond?
I did not hear the second part of that.
He says, directors shall be limited to 3 consecutive 2-year terms. I think based on the answer, this is still confusing.
I think it's clear enough to if we need to clarify the language, we'd have to revise that in next year. But we can do that. It's certainly possible.
Okay, Tim also points out that if it's a 6-year lifetime limit, then the text shouldn't specify consecutive.
Well, looks like we've had time. We got time.
We got time? All right, so we've had 59 responses, and we break out to 55 yeses, 1 no, and 2 abstentions. So we just had another one roll in.
Thank all of you for your approval. It's been a 3-year effort, and I can't tell you how pleased I am, and I know the board members are, and how much I appreciate John's leadership through the troubled waters. Thank you. So now we will move to the voting for the slate. I'm looking for some sort of affirmation of that.
We don't vote yet. You let me speak.
Oh, certainly, Shirley. I didn't see your hand was up.
It wasn't up. I'm on the agenda, madam.
Oh, excuse me, madam. I don't have the agenda on with me or in front of me. I very much apologize.
Oh, I would like to share my screen.
Sure.
You may have to tell me what you're seeing. My screen, the screen that I am seeing has the candidate statements on it, which is what I'm hoping you're seeing.
Correct.
Yes. I am talking because I was the chair of the nominating committee for this year. This committee consisted of Mac Camacho, Susan Carr, and myself. This has been a very interesting year because we went to figure out who might be interested in serving in any position on the board this year in a world of changing bylaws. So we really didn't know answers while we were doing this. And I want to just commend my committee for rolling with the punches. We had one person want to be secretary. That's Bonnie Basham. And she's obviously known to you since she's our current president. She will be passing up being past president, but in that same breath, she's going to serve that role as well as being secretary. We have one person who's not on this list, and he was actually elected a year ago and was not under the purview of the nominating committee, and that is our President-elect, Mark Catelli. The existing bylaws, or ones that were existing until a couple of minutes ago, had us definitely voting for him now, just so that if we didn't like that president-elect, we could kick him out. But I'm hoping that we all vote for him, since the nominating committee, had we been asked to put him on the floor. Amongst others, we have 2 categories. We have people that have never been on the board before. I'm just going to read their names and where they're from. Patricia Burgos, she's from Lake Beautyberry chapter. Tim Keating, who's with the Passion Flower chapter. He's been in the environmental sector on various committees and boards for quite a number of years. We have Chris Moran, who's with the Magnolia chapter. And he is a CPA, so that doesn't mean we're going to put him to use as a CPA, but he is a CPA, which is a talent that in general the board thinks would be good to have on the board. We have Virginia Overstreet with the Suncoast chapter. That's in the Tampa area. She's currently chapter president, and she works with the Extension Service, so she's really good with gardening types of things. We have Steve Patton, who is with the Sarasota chapter, Serenoa chapter in Sarasota, and he's running a small business. And his focus is actually on aquatics, which will be different for the board. Then I'm skipping several, and I'm going to go back up. These people whose names are in red on your screen are the people who are currently on the board or were on the board just now as standing committee chairs. The bylaws were not finalized at the time that we were actually asking for people if they wanted to run, but we gave everyone who was a standing committee chair an opportunity to run if they wished to do so. 4 out of the 5 chose to do so. So Paul Schmalzer, Wendy Pogue, Eugene Kelly, and myself. I'm not really sure whether I'm allowed to be here or not, but we put me on here because there was no choice when this came down at the last minute. So we just arbitrarily decided committee chairs had an opportunity to run. So I think the group as a whole met these challenges really well. We also instituted procedures that were associated with these new bylaws. Namely, we asked for these statements way up front, and we publicized them way up front so that you could review them and make intelligent decisions. I hope that you do so, and now I turn this back over to our still as yet president, Bonnie Basham.
The dying swan. Yes, so now with some assistance from Shirley and John as to the process, I believe that the slate, which will be shown in just a moment, you will be able to vote for all of the proposed director positions. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it's one slate though, because basically we didn't need choices in this. If you disagree, we will have to do it one at a time.
Right. So Valerie, if you would open that voting portal up.
Yes, Shirley, could you stop sharing?
I'm trying to. It's telling me that I can do a new share. Oh, now there's a stop.
Then I'll ask the members who are present to vote on the slate, please. And we might want to vote too.
The slate came. This is the wrong slate that just came up for me. Make sure it's the one that has just the one choice.
Mine says I need permission.
I see.
Looks like it's the correct one on YouTube.
The correction came up for, the correct one eventually came up for me. It was just delayed.
Mine says you need permission. I'm just gonna put my vote in the chat.
Mine too. Says to remove the account.
Should those of us who have voted vote again? Thank you.
Good work. Thank you. While we wait, I commend Valerie for these audio-visual gymnastics.
Yeah.
It can't be easy. I know. Good job, Val.
Thank you guys, sorry. I just wanted to confirm, please let me know if you are still unable to act. I'm very sorry for sending it out without that.
Well, and let me echo the thank you, because I've driven her crazy for the last 2 days, switching slides around and adding slides. And she's very accomplished at being able to juggle a half a dozen balls at the same time. So thank you.
Oh, we trust you.
Ann Redmond, did you get your question answered about the link? I see that she wrote in the chat.
So the link should be the same. If you refresh the form, I've posted a new link in case you want to re-click it.
Okay, and she's just said the link is working now. Thanks.
If anyone is having issues or you don't want to leave YouTube, I can email you. Just let me know if I need to email you the link. You can email me or you can text me. And everybody seems satisfied in my email, so it's fantastic.
It means we'll keep you on for at least another day.
Oh, good. We have a question from Chanda B, unrelated. How do I get a copy of my region's native plant guide, 9B, Inland Southern Palm Bay?
If she'll, well, Melanie could send that out. I believe.
I'm not aware of native plant guides by region, unless you're talking about what can be pulled from the
Good Citizen Guide.
From the FNPS.
So we do have the posters. If you want one fast, we have the posters on our Teespring store. I can post a link, or if I can find it, I can send you one if I have one in my possession. So Chanda, if you'll email me so that I remember to do that, that would be great.
It's possible, Valerie, that she was talking about the regional guide for the Good Citizens Guide.
It's possible. I mean, she is a new member.
Yeah, that only has a few selected plants. A comprehensive list, the only place I know it's available is the FNPS website, and going to the plant thing and doing a search by region or by zip code. That will pull up all of the plants that are appropriate for the area.
And I believe that's under what we do in the...
Yeah, it's under native plants, I think.
Susan's comment in the chat is real. We do still have the landscape brochures, which most chapters still have.
Yes. Excellent.
Okay, so we got, well, let me refresh, make sure I'm good. We got 67 responses. Just check to make sure everybody's good. I'm gonna check my email one last time. We got Margita emailed me and says yes. Okay, so let me vote for Margita. Copy. Okay.
Valerie, could you capture that individual's name who was asking about the brochure so we can follow up with her and see what that she's asking for?
Yes. I asked her to email me, and I put my email in the chat. So
okay, great.
Once she gets with me, I'll tell her. And she did say she did want the poster, so that's a possibility.
Good.
All right, so we got 71 responses, and I have put it on the screen. You guys can't see it yet. Let me share screen with you guys. So it was 71 people responded. We had 70 yeses and 1 no.
Okay.
So the slate passes, and let's.
Great, the slate passes, and we have some new folks on the board, which is grand. And we have some folks who are remaining on the board to help those new people. So that's great. I think, unless there's any other business to come before the board, we'll do a sign off, Valerie.
Well, we have the gavel handing, so I have that ready to go.
Right. Yeah. No. Yeah.
Okay.
Do that now.
Okay. So you guys won't be able to see it. Okay. You guys won't be able to see it, but the people online will be able to see it.
Oh, we can't see it.
Sorry.
Can I show it afterwards?
To hand off the official FNPS gavel. It's had a long and useful life, and I know that you will use it as you go into your presidency, and I'm certainly proud of you, and I'm looking forward to your presidency.
Wow, the storied FNPS gavel. Thanks, Bonnie. I remember quite a few tables at retreats taking a hammering from this baby. It's rustic and exemplifies the salt of the earth people we as Florida Native Plant Society members are. I want to first start off by thanking Bonnie Basham, our wonderful past president. Here are a couple of pictures of her accepting her step down gift, a beautiful water fountain, and of her in 2019 with Nikki Fried celebrating a statewide Florida October Native Plant Month proclamation. Bonnie weathered and prevailed many, many changes during her tenure. Our pandemic president witnessed for the first time the annual conference transform into an online format. In 2020, she helped produce FNPS's diversity and inclusion statement. With the support of her board, she doubled down on our support and affiliation with the Florida Wildflower Foundation, first with a Memorandum of Understanding in 2020, and just recently with a letter of agreement on the establishment of a statewide internship program beginning in 2023. Bonnie oversaw the highest donation drive in FNPS history through the 2021 annual fund campaign. This just scratches the surface of the tireless work, innumerable correspondences, and hard work your past president has done during a time of deep FNPS technological and administrative transformation that has resulted in a new full-time FNPS director just this week. I also want to thank Dr. Susan Carr, who enjoys being a creative, progressive thinker and a lover of corny jokes as much as I am. Dr. Carr, thank you so much, and I know without your support, I wouldn't be behind the screen today. You gave me the opportunity to learn with Bonnie, and boy, has Bonnie been a great teacher. This past year has not been a manual on governance, but how to effectively govern in sometimes very fluid FNPS discussions. Bonnie, you didn't show me how to govern. You governed and let me watch how you do it. And for that, you have my respect and admiration. On another note, I'd also like to thank my dad, Phil Catelli, fellow nature lover and avid gardener. Here's a picture of him at a plant sale. This photo actually has special meaning to me. It was taken coincidentally on the same day that I joined the Florida Native Plant Society over 12 years ago. He was the best father, a best friend a child could ever hope for. Every time I experience the wonders of our plants, a part of him springs back to life. Dad, thank you, and I love you. Here's another picture that I thought I'd like to share with you. Imagine FNPS like this vibrant photograph of a healthy estuary. Many organisms consider the estuary a place where they belong. Waters from distant places intermix, and plants form various communities that flourish and specialize in different spaces. Moreover, the estuary serves as a nursery for the next generation. The confluence of several variables helps this jewel of an ecosystem thrive and make it highly productive. The estuary also represents my leadership style and that of Couple of Fern, a wonderful little chapter that I belong to. All for one and one for all. Let us meet and welcome distant plant admirers into our membership. Let us serve as idea incubators and education nurseries for our new members. Let's increase production in different spaces for the benefit of all. If you give others the benefit of the doubt, acknowledge and appreciate what others selflessly do for the common good, give credit where credit is due, are keen listeners, or offer up help that puts FNPS in the spotlight, I personally would like to hear from you. Please email me at mcatelli@fnps.org, and let's serve and exalt FNPS further. From citrus to Kunti to Cocoloba, Conradina, and Couple Fern. From Hernando to Heartland, Lake Beautyberry to Longleaf, Mangrove to Magnolia, Marion and Martin, Ixia and Eugenia, Nature Coast to Naples, Passion Flower to Paw Paw, Palm Beach, Paynes Prairie, Pine Lily, and Pinellas. From Sarracenia to Sea Oats, Sea Rocket, Serenoa, Sparkleberry, Suncoast to Sweet Bay, from Tarflower to the villages. Remember, this is my land. This land is your land, and Florida's native plants were meant for you and me. Let's get to 10,000 members. Thank you so much for attending the annual meeting.
I will turn the gavel and the meeting over to our new president, Mark Kelly. Mark?
Well, thank you. Thank you, Bonnie. I appreciate all your support and tutelage for over a year. It's been quite a journey, and it's not over yet. So stick with me. I look forward to the support of the board as a whole as well. I believe it is time to close the meeting, so I would like to ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. Thank you, Melanie. Is there any discussion?
Who made the motion?
Bonnie.
Bonnie, okay.
Melanie seconded. All in favor of adjourning the annual meeting for 2022, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstentions? All right. The annual meeting for 2022 is officially adjourned.